In 1988, John McTiernan, Stephen E. D'Souza and Jeb Stewart, via Roderick Thorpe, gave us the action classic Die Hard. That much is well known. Perhaps outside of the usual moral panic surrounding violence in cinema, there isn't a great deal of controversy regarding the film. Or at least there wasn't. That seemingly ended last year when Netflix listed the movie under the Festive Favourites category. I took time out of my busy schedule to conduct some research, which led to tweets such as these.
Die Hard is not an Xmas film. Now begins the season of 4 million dudes talking about how Die Hard is their favourite Christmas movie. Can we at least end 2016 on a slightly better note and agree to stop saying Die Hard is a Christmas movie?
And most galling of all,
saying Die Hard is your favourite Christmas movie is like saying how into sriracha you are.
Cody Waits there, firstly not making a great deal of sense, and secondly trying to ruin both Christmas and the best hot sauce. Though I found the above whilst researching this article, I saw similar such things on my Facebook feed and Twitter. I found it a bit perplexing, to be honest. Die Hard on Christmas Eve is a time-honoured tradition in my house, wherever that may be. I've never felt it was something I was doing ironically or for the benefit of anybody else. I'll be honest, it's the smugness of it all that really bothered me. People dismissively talking from a position of assumed authority. Die Hard isn't a Christmas film, they seem to be saying. It's just set at Christmas. That's how you sound. But there's much more to Die Hard's festive angle than its incidental Christmas setting. I'd argue that Christmas is very obviously in the fabric of Die Hard itself. Had these people, these Hans Grubers, even watched it recently? I'm looking at you, Cody Waits. Of course, a brave brigade of dirty vest wearing down on their luck everymen and women push back with counter-arguments such as these.
Reminder, Christmas is key to the Die Hard movie. McClane is only visiting because it is Christmas, and Nakatomi Plaza is empty because it is Christmas. That's why it's a Christmas movie. Die Hard is about Christmas. It's a family redemption story about personal suffering in the service of fellow man in defiance of systemic avarice. It's pure Dickens, but with machine guns. Okay, but also it has a greedy Grinch-like villain, is filled with holiday music and references, it snows at the end, and is about an estranged father trying to get home to his kids on Christmas Eve and reconcile his marriage.
And without wanting to dwell on social media for much longer, I recently undertook a totally scientific, unbiased and objective Twitter poll in which a massive 85% of 393 respondents agreed that Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Of course, this all still begs the question, is Die Hard a Christmas film? What even is a Christmas film? Does anybody know? I asked my YouTube colleagues to find out.
I don't know. Is it in the score? Is it in the theme of the movie? I don't know. I think it's a film we as in general as a society associate with that time of the year. And that can be, hey, it could be Santa with muscles. Or it could be something like Die Hard, which is set at Christmas or in the Christmas festive period. But I think it can be anything we want in essence. But I think in general, as Western society, I think we tend to think of it as something that we associate with Christmas. And I think certainly in terms of secular Christmas, Christmas that's not about religion at all, I think Die Hard has come to embody that. I think it's come to embody the kind of the secular Western Christmas in a way, and it is because of its wish fulfillment and its fantasy fulfillment aspects. Because it's essentially that bit from The Simpsons where Homer imagines the nuclear plant's been attacked by ninjas and he takes them all out, and then it cuts to reality and he's just wafting his armpits at people with fans behind them. I don't know. I think absolutely it's a Christmas film. I would certainly come down on that side, but I would say that it's. I think if you're gonna, you have to really unpick it and go back to like what is Christmas? What does Christmas mean to people? What do we mean when we talk about Christmas? What's the atmosphere of Christmas? And really, it's about it's about a collective experience at the end of the day. Usually with family, but it can be anything, And I think Die Hard is very emblematic of the collective experience.
Is Die Hard a Christmas film? Yes, of course it's a Christmas film. It's set at Christmas. Okay, if we're going to say that the only thing that qualifies a film to be a Christmas film is that it's actually about the mechanics of Christmas, that means, well, that completely limits what we can consider as a Christmas film. It basically means that anything that's not basically the Nativity or an adaptation of a Christmas Carol can't be a Christmas film. I mean, it's literally, if something set at Christmas is a Christmas film, then Die Hard is a Christmas film. I personally think something that's set at Christmas, that has Christmas themes, that has Christmas in it, that opens with a Run DMC Christmas song, is a Christmas film. If we're to say it can't be Christmas because there's no snow in it, or no one learns the true meaning of Christmas, then we're really down to a handful of movies that are Christmas films. Die Hard is just as much a Christmas movie as Gremlins is. And Gremlins has nothing to do with Christmas other than it's set at Christmas. There just happens to be snow in Gremlins, so it feels a little bit more Christmassy, I suppose. But Die Hard is totally a Christmas film. That's my idea anyway. That's what I think. I would. Die Hard is. It's an anomaly because you can watch Die Hard out of Christmas and it works because it is such an important action film, and the Christmas elements are subtle enough that you don't have to watch it and go, oh, well, why am I watching this in the summer? But that still doesn't make it not a Christmas film. It's totally a Christmas film. Anyone that says it's not is a bit of a wally.
So does a Christmas film have to be set at Christmas, or is it just something you watch at Christmas? Maybe it's completely subjective. For the record, here are my thoughts on why Die Hard is a Christmas film. Okay, let's just get this out of the way now. Yes, Die Hard is set at Christmas, and that's where a lot of this talk comes from. John McClane comes to LA to reconcile with his wife at her office Christmas party on Christmas Eve. It's that leads to the Christmas imagery and iconography throughout, be that in the form of Christmas trees, Christmas decorations, and crucially, Christmas tape, among other things. This also means that there's a lot of diegetic and non-diegetic Christmas music, which brings me to the soundtrack. The film is absolutely full of Christmas songs, which will add to the mood. Beethoven's Ode to Joy features very prominently in the film and has become undeniably linked with the franchise, though that relationship is mostly one way. And that's not to mention Let It Snow, Jingle Bells, Winter Wonderland, and the greatest Christmas song of all time, Christmas in Hollis by Run DMC. So there are a few Christmas songs played over the action, so what? Well, there's more to it than that. The score to the film was composed by the late great Michael Kamen. Not only are there classic Christmas songs present in the film, but Kamen works them into his compositions. Classic melodies are repurposed as tense action thriller music, and he even uses sleigh bells in his mixes throughout, giving the whole thing a festive flavour. The most important discussion for me is the plot and the themes in Die Hard in comparisons to other films. This is one of the most crucial areas of the discussion. Die Hard, whatever you may say, does share themes with other Christmas films. Family, sacrifice, reconciliation, children, and obstacles to be overcome. And as I've mentioned previously, McTiernan and the film's crew go to great lengths to imbue the film with more than just surface-level festive imagery. Released in a time of Eastwood's, Schwarzenegger's and Stallone's, Die Hard tells the story of a man with a blue-collar job performing extraordinary feats to not only save his wife, but to rebuild his family. He bleeds when he's cut, and he cries to Holly on the phone. Remember, it's this extraordinary situation that brings Holly and McClane back together. If it weren't for Hans and company, John would be sleeping in the spare room, or tearfully rubbing one out on a mate's sofa bed. It's easy to forget in a world of increasingly absurdist action cinema that John McClane single-handedly foiling a terrorist plot is as much of a Christmas miracle as George Bailey making friends with an angel. I sometimes feel that people reject the idea of Die Hard as a Christmas film owing to its violence or inherent grimness. I do accept that on a certain level, such things aren't for everyone, which is fair enough. But let's not forget that whilst the Nativity has a lovely third act that's all about magic stars and donkeys, it kicks off in grand style with King Herod attempting mass infanticide. And referring back to It's a Wonderful Life for a moment, it's worth remembering that the film is about a suicidal father of one that's about to jump off a bridge to an icy death when the film starts, and it's set during the aftermath of the Depression and World War II. Both films establish a desperate status quo, then rise to a cathartic feel-good conclusion whilst depicting socially realistic issues in a fantastic, if heightened, setting. George Bailey and John McClane are alienated and down on their luck family men that have to overcome adversity and reunite with their families. Bailey is mates with an angel, and John McClane is a fallible, very human everyman. George Bailey lives in a world afflicted by economic downturn and driven to suicide, partially at least, by assisting others in need of help and allowing himself to become destitute in the process. A storyline that is arguably grimmer, if not in its violence, but in its themes, than the story of Nakatomi Plaza. But of course, that's just what I think. But what's the theoretical or critical angle on Die Hard? I spoke to film studies lecturer and author Topi Venables to find out.
There are good arguments for Die Hard being a Christmas movie. But The Wizard of Oz, take that as an example. Is that a Christmas movie? I mean, most people would say that it definitely was, even though it's not about Christmas. It doesn't mention Christmas as far as I can remember. It doesn't take place at Christmas, and it's released in August, but it becomes a Christmas movie partly through a tradition of when it's being watched. But there's one other thing about it which I think is really important, and that is it's fundamentally about a family coming back together. And when you look at Christmas movies, great Christmas movies, that's what they're about. They're about families being brought back together, and usually with a child at the heart of the story. The other thing about Christmas, it's a time when the usual rules are suspended. So it's the time of the Lord of Misrule, sort of medieval thing where the hierarchy of the court is turned upside down. It's also one of those times when the veil between this world and the other is kind of thin, so it's like Halloween. So magical things can happen, and not necessarily good magical things. They could be quite dark and they could be quite scary. You know, think about the Christmas ghost story tradition, which is a sort of long-standing tradition. Ghost stories are a great Victorian tradition, but it goes further back. Gawain and the Green Knight, this medieval story, the Green Knight, this supernatural figure appears at Christmas time, and kind of everything goes a bit weird. So this is one of the reasons why Dorothy's Trip to Oz feels right for Christmas. Another example, thinking about ghost stories, A Christmas Carol, Charles Dickens. So a great ghost story, also one of the greatest Christmas stories. You might think, well, Scrooge has no family, but that's exactly his problem. And at the end, he finds a family and the true meaning of Christmas, and it's really a child, Tiny Tim, who drives his transformation, along with a bit of, Christmas magic. And it's a dynamic that is repeated in It's a Wonderful Life, almost exactly. Going further back, look at the original Christmas story, that is exactly what you've got. So there's a family, which is brought together in the broadest sense, from shepherds to kings. It's kind of like this extended family. Brought together, something magical happening, and it's all around a child at the center of it. Despite some quite scary, dark obstacles, the firstborn being killed and all that sort of stuff. Obstacles are important because, drama, difficulty makes drama, so there is no drama without obstacles. And Die Hard, to bring it back to that finally, has all of these elements. It's a family coming together around a child, it has obstacles on its obstacles, and it certainly throws the rules out of the window. It throws lots of things out of the window, actually. Also, for a time, the Nakatomi building becomes its own kind of separate world in which this, separated from the rest, in which this strange drama unfolds. So that's one way of looking at it. But there's something else, because I think beyond this, we need to remember that Christmas traditions are quite arbitrary, and no one is ever going to completely agree on them, and there's no reason why we should have to anyway. Why have a tree or send cards or pull crackers? Why do those things? Most of us do, but some people don't. In other countries, they don't. And it's an odd mix of pagan, Victorian, medieval, all sorts of stuff. So the thing about traditions, Christmas traditions, any traditions, is that they are also quite personal. So the example that always springs to mind for me is every year on his birthday, Ingmar Bergman would sit down and watch The Creature from the Black Lagoon, which is perhaps not what you'd expect from Bergman, but it was his favourite film, and he'd sit down, eat what he wanted to eat, and watch this film every year. That's his tradition. There's no reason why we should do the same thing on our own birthdays, but that's kind of how it works, you know. So I think basically, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is, if you think Die Hard is a Christmas film, it's a Christmas film. If you're not happy with Die Hard being a Christmas film, hey, it's not a Christmas film. And that's fine. And, you know, we should be able to accept all those viewpoints because, well, because it's Christmas.
Of course, at the end of the day, this is mostly just a bit of fun, a nice distraction in the run up to Christmas to keep you from drinking too many White Russians and passing out in the bath. But in the interest of getting a true answer to this conundrum, to really provide something definitive, I reached out on Twitter to the co-writer of Die Hard, Stephen E. D'Souza. He had this to say.
I think this jolly old gent has the last word on the subject.
For goodness sake, I just want to watch my favorite Christmas movie. Is it up or down?
Stop scrolling and just tell the remote.
Just tell it?
Just tell it.
Okay. Die Hard. Oh! Hey! Get your own laugh.
And there you have it, a somewhat cryptic though affirmative answer to the question straight from the source. In conclusion, is Die Hard a Christmas film? Yes, of course it is, except for when it isn't. I hope this clears things up. Do you think Die Hard is a Christmas film? If we've proved anything today, it's that it probably doesn't matter. Join me in 2018 when I'll prove that RoboCop is the best film for Pancake Day. Merry Christmas, mother.
Support your 7th or 8th favourite YouTube channel by buying crap, tat, junk, hogwash and filth at redbubble.com/people/ValverdeShop.